Round one, day two, and two blue bloods on center stage. Ryan Brown and Johns Hopkins against Greg Caholen and Virginia. It was Caholen who had the game-winning goal in a 16-15 overtime win for UVA in the regular season against Johns Hopkins. A quadruple header on tap for you as four teams will try to get to the quarterfinals. Four moved on yesterday. Anish Shroff alongside the former All-American from Johns Hopkins, Quint Kesnick. Give me a snapshot here, Quint, of day two. What are you looking forward to?
Great Mother's Day lineup, and it starts in Charlottesville. Kind of a toss-up game between Johns Hopkins and Virginia. The Cavaliers won the regular season game. And then I like the higher-seeded teams in the remaining three games. A snowy day in Denver, North Carolina, speed and quickness, and then grab some Dome dogs. The Orange will roll in the Dome.
We send you out to Klockner Stadium in beautiful Charlottesville, Virginia. Mike Corey, Matt Ward, and the ghost of Thomas Jefferson.
All right, Anish, Quint, thank you very much, and welcome to this matchup here today. It's the 90th meeting between these two, Johns Hopkins and Virginia, here in the 2015 NCAA Men's Lacrosse Championship, presented by Northwestern Mutual. Here's a look at the bracket. The winner of this game today goes to the quarterfinals next Sunday in Annapolis. They'll take on the winner of Syracuse and Marist. That game later tonight, the fourth of our four games here today on ESPNU. Hi, everybody. Good to have you with us. Welcome to Charlottesville, Virginia. Mike Corey and former Tewaaraton Trophy winner from Virginia, Matt Ward. Rivalry matchup. Here we go again, Matt. What's in store this afternoon?
Well, these are two teams very familiar with one another. This is the fourth matchup in 2 years. Two of those games have gone to overtime. They know each other's strengths. They know their weaknesses. It is going to be an awesome game to watch. All
right, let's go to the edge here in today's matchup. The attackman for Johns Hopkins and the goalkeeper for Virginia.
Ryan Brown, the best shooter, lefty and righty in college lacrosse, 54 goals on the year. And then Virginia, Matt Barrett, the sophomore goaltender, saving over 56% of his shots. He sees a lot of them, too. He's third in the country with the amount of saves he's had. He has had a tremendous sophomore season so far.
And we'll keep an eye on that this afternoon for head coach Tom Starsia at Virginia. 368 wins, most in the history of the game. Now in his 23rd year, and would like nothing more than to return the favor in this matchup. They lost last year in the first round, as you talked about. Dave Petramala and the Blue Jays, the Big Ten Coach of the Year in the inaugural season for them, and that's how they got to this point. They had to win the Big Ten to make it to the playoffs, which they did in a 13-6 win over Ohio State last Saturday. In cage for Johns Hopkins is Eric Schneider. And here's a guy who's been with this program for a long time, struggled a little bit. They made a change. They went to Will Ryan a couple of times this season, but they go back to Schneider, the captain. He has delivered as of late.
The skill set is there. It's his confidence there, and he played a great game in the Big Ten championship.
Opening face-off of the game this afternoon. And Drew Kennedy at the X for Johns Hopkins. This one's going to scoot out of Virginia as Jason Murphy was taking this face-off, and we'll keep an eye on that matchup a lot throughout the game. Johns Hopkins will have the opening possession of the ball game, but that was huge in that first meeting in which Virginia won back in Baltimore.
And Michael Pellegrino there, a phenomenal job realizing that it was a long stick Virginia defensive player going towards the wing. He extended himself knowing that he was more likely than not going to knock the ball out of his stick and out of bounds.
Connor Reed gets it behind now for Wells Stanwyck. Joel Tinney has it. Let's go to your keys for Johns Hopkins today, Matt.
Johns Hopkins is a very skilled team, and they have the opportunity to beat Virginia on off-ball passes, and then they need to limit the turnovers. Their first possession, a careless pass. But again, it's those two things. That they can make those skip passes and pick apart this Virginia defense that is pretty questionable on their off-ball communication, they're going to find themselves in positions to take a lot of shots through the course of this game.
And it's a Virginia team that you'd have to think is well rested. They haven't played since April 25th. They went 0-4 in the ACC. They finished the season playing Penn a 12-6 winner there, but they've had some time to get ready for this one.
And that could be a blessing, it could be a curse. It's how does the team come mentally? How did the senior captains get them ready to play? Yes, they'll be rested, but sometimes they're sea legs too if you haven't found yourself up, running and down in the game, especially in the first round NCAA tournament game.
All right, what about your keys today for the Cavaliers?
Virginia, they need to save 60%. Matt Barrett needs to play his best game of the year. And then the first game they won because their midfield produced. They need a very similar story. Ryan Tucker, Tyler German, Zed Williams need to carry this offense because they're their horses and they're their best players and most experienced players.
That's German right there on that shot, wide right, backed up by Lukovic. Lukovic. Feed it back up top to German. German checked by Joe Carlini for Johns Hopkins. It was a high-scoring affair the first time these two teams met in Baltimore. A 16-15 overtime win for the Cavaliers. They were down 15-13. Came back to tie it and win it in overtime. Cajon making Lukovic shoot, save Schneider. Nice play and picked up by the Blue Jays. Pellegrino. They almost throw it away. John Kelly is there, and the defenseman brings it over.
That was a nice job by number 36, Nikon Schuler, making Lukovic dodge down the side, run out of angle, and for their goaltender who has head issues. Snyder has not played great this year. Limiting the angles for the shooters is really key for this defense. They did a great job on that first possession.
John Crawley for Stanwyck. The second midfield group in right now for the Blue Jays. Stanwyck working around. And Virginia fans imploring the defense here as these teams feel each other out in the early going. Nice spin by Brown. Shot just off to the right. Ryan Brown this season, a goal-scoring machine, has the single-game record as a Blue Jay with 54 goals. Single season record. Working around the shot, and that one is in. Goal for Johns Hopkins, Cody Radzowitz. On a spin move in front of the cage, and it's 1-0 Blue Jays.
One of my keys in the game was off-ball opportunities for Johns Hopkins because Virginia is not great at communicating defensively here. Not off-ball, but it was a simple two-man pick game from behind the cage. They do not communicate efficiently. They're not able to get their hands on it. Just a great job getting to GLE. The lefty shot slips in near side. A phenomenal take for Johns Hopkins to get their first goal of the game.
Jason Murphy in white and Drew Kennedy in blue for the Blue Jays. Still loose and picked up by Virginia. That was Zed Williams, and then it got taken away. Kelly again, John Kelly. Nice recovery by Shaq Stanwyck.
Johns Hopkins missed an opportunity there to get Ryan Brown a shot where he's deadly from up on the right side with his right hand. There is no one better in college lacrosse. You need to get your best players the ball in the best opportunities.
Katoni gets it back to Stanwyck. Well, Stanwyck feeding in front for Brown, and that shot went wide left and off of Katoni. And the fans, as they scream, they say it went off of Katoni there out of bounds.
It was the right call. It was definitely a shot. The momentum of the shot, regardless of when on the sideline or the end line, it's whoever's closest to the ball. But you can see early, Johns Hopkins is going to play the two-man pick game and try to get the matchups they want, mix up communication for this Virginia defense that's very young.
Brown couldn't hang on to it. He's thinking about the shot first and turns it over. Will McNamara for Virginia. Cavaliers finished 10-4 in the season, 0-4 in the ACC. We talked to Coach Tom Starsia the other day about this. The fans and people around the area, well, you didn't win a conference game this year. And he honestly said, so what? And we played our games tough. We had a terrific regular season. He really felt like they exceeded the expectations they had set throughout, especially with a young team, Matt, to work through all that. It's been a really good year for these guys.
They have to be happy with what this young team accomplished. The injuries that they faced, unmatched in college across their best defensive player, their best offensive attackman, as Virginia gets one on the doorstep.
Right in front to Caholen from Lukovic, and Greg Caholen ties it up at 1.
Greg Caholen having an amazing season. He started in the midfield when James Pennell got hurt. He made the transition to attack, and he never skipped a beat. The simple pass to X, Lukovic. His strong point is feeding from X, and right there, the vision, the pinpoint accuracy. Caholen with the simple backdoor cut. Catches it, keeps his composure, changes planes, and buries it in the back of the net.
What a job by Caholen this season. They had the injury to James Pennell earlier in the year. The attackman played in just 6 games, and they moved Caholen from the midfield to the attack, and he's been special, Matt.
Not too many players have the skill set to excel from the midi, as mainly a dodging midi from up top, and then to transition down to GLE and have the year that he's had is truly phenomenal. Just shows complete diversification in his skill set.
And you saw it from that graphic there with the 18 goals in the first 2 years and then 38 this year. Hopkins gets this one on the face-off for the infraction. They've picked up their first of the game. John Crawley.
Johns Hopkins showing tremendous faith in their second midfield. They got the first goal of the game. Their second goal of the game is Crawley slips one near side on just a simple lefty dodge from behind.
Well, that's 2 now for the Blue Jays, and Crawley following up what Radzewicz just did, but a little bit further out, and it's 2-1.
Johns Hopkins going to their invert offense, which means they take their middies, they bring them behind the cage and allow them to dodge and initiate from there. And Crawley, just a simple move to his left, not a lot of angle. Second goal near side. Maybe they saw something on the scouting report of Matt Barrett. On those in tight situations, he may step off the post too much, and that's 2 for them near side on the Virginia goaltender.
Now it's Hunter Moreland taking this face-off for Johns Hopkins. Still Jason Murphy for Virginia. And a good job there as they win this one to get 2 in a row now. Moreland had a great job at the face-off X in that first meeting. 10 of 13 versus Virginia back at home in that 16-15 loss in overtime back on March 21st. Catoni checks in, gets it. They feed it over to Brown. And now Stanwyck.
I'm good.
Johns Hopkins 9-6 in the season. They went 4-1 in the Big Ten. They had to win the Big Ten tournament championship. They earned the right to be here in the playoffs. And Ryan Brown takes advantage now and shoots and scores. And the subject of our edge into the act here early, Matt. 3-1 Blue Jays.
Johns Hopkins executing their game plan to perfection. Connor Reed, their most athletic player, will initiate from up top. Takes it down the wing, feeds Ryan Brown, and right here, he gets his hands free, and there is no one better. Accurate placement gets Hopkins a 2-goal lead.
The NCAA Men's Lacrosse Championship is presented by Northwestern Mutual. You and Northwestern Mutual, stronger together.
3-1 Johns Hopkins thanks to that man, number 4, Ryan Brown, who has now scored a goal in 32 straight, the longest in the nation.
And just right here, Virginia gets very casual off the ball. You cannot leave Ryan Brown that open in that position. Just past Paul Rabel with 112 goals in his career. It's fun to watch him play because there's a lot of righties out there who can shoot it from range, but he can do it with either hand. It's just devastating for a defense to game plan.
And that's our Bio Blast, brought to you by Sector Spider ETFs on Ryan Brown. The season it's been, and just a junior out of Sykesville, Maryland.
He's not going to beat you dodging. That's not his MO. His MO is being a smart off-ball lacrosse player, taking advantages of defenses and their slide packages. There is no one better from 10 yards and out in the country.
Extends his single season record of goals now to 55. Hunter Moreland. For Johns Hopkins again, Jason Murphy. If they change it up, they go to Jeff Kratke. And Kratke at this faceoff this time, and Virginia is going to win it. Will they throw it away? No, they don't. German hangs on to it. Nice play, Tyler German. As we approach the halfway point of this first quarter.
Coach Starge is probably going to have a conversation with Cooper first in there. After he picks up the ground ball, you can run back to your defensive position and find your goalie wide open, opposed to throwing a backhanded pass that made Tyler German really extend himself and expose himself to a lot of contact in the middle of the field.
Now here's German looking for the shot, got it knocked away from behind by Carlini, but it's picked up by Cajolan. Now Owen Van Aartsdale. By Nikon Schuler, and here's a shot, a rocket from Cajolan, and the save by Eric Schneider, his second.
And a great catch by Pellegrino to maintain possession for Johns Hopkins.
And the Blue Jays with Crawley. Finally gets into the attack zone. Offensively here, you talked about it, Matt. They've had a couple of goals spinning from around the cage to Barrett's left side. 2 of their 3. And they try it again. Flag is down as Crawley turns, shoots, and he scores. And John Crawley, 4-1 Blue Jays with 6:12 here in the first.
The third goal from the second midfield when they're on the field. Johns Hopkins taking advantage of the short stick matchups. John Crawley went left on his first opportunity. Drives up the right side. Guarded by number 2, Milliken for Virginia. And again, it's the 2-man game off the pick. And puts it to the far corner. You'd like to see Matt Barrett coming out of his cage, attacking that ball more, but the perfect placement.
Well, here we go. Just underway today. The first of 4 games of the first round of the NCAA Lacrosse Championship, presented by Northwestern Mutual. Brown and Denver to follow us. Denver trying to stay at home for quite some time. They host the quarterfinals the following weekend. Colgate and North Carolina, they have aspirations to get to championship weekend. And Marist and Syracuse, the nightcap. The winner of this game here today between Johns Hopkins and Virginia will play the winner of that game next Sunday in Annapolis. Blue Jays so far shooting 50% and 4 for 8. Their second best quarter of the season is typically the first quarter. They've shot 34% throughout the campaign and lead it by 3 here, Matt. Great start for the Blue Jays on the road for the second year in a row, the first round of the playoffs here in Virginia.
And they're just building upon what they did the last month of the season. They're not turning the ball over. They're getting their players in positions to take advantage of defenses when they slide. No team in the country, you watch them warm up, zips the ball like Johns Hopkins does, shooting the ball in the back of the cage. It's always one of the pretty things to watch. Even if you're on the other side of the field, you have to admire it. And they're executing, they're getting the players in the positions to take those shots when defense doesn't communicate, when Virginia's defense doesn't communicate.
Lukovic checked by Fields. The Cavaliers spinning, shooting, and Schneider got another save and cleans it up. On the outlet, quickly finding Phil Castronova. 3 saves for Schneider. Castronova works it in quickly. And over to Ryan Brown.
And Schneider playing big here early on. That was a nice take by Lukovic. Very patient dodging. That's what Virginia needs. But Hopkins, Schneider, sharp in the cage.
So far, so good to start off here. Connor Reed, first midfield group is in for the Blue Jays. Reed. It's behind for Shaq Stanwyck. Blue Jays have been able to put up points this season, averaging 12.5 a game. Good for top 10 in the country. And off to the fast start here again today. Reed finding Tinney. Tinney unleashes. And Joel Tinney, the freshman, 5-1 Blue Jays.
This opportunity all starts on the defensive end. Schneider, the nice save, stick side high. And then here, Connor Reed with his 2nd assist of the game. If he can do that, Johns Hopkins is very dangerous. Teams need to make Connor Reed be the person taking the shot, not Joel Tinney. Do not slide to Connor Reed because he'll pick you apart as a passer. You'd rather him take that shot.
And that's 4 straight by the Blue Jays on 4 straight shots. They've scored on every one. Very effective here with 4:20 to play first quarter, and they win the face-off. Pellegrino. Barrett has yet to make a save for the Cavaliers. Now Radzowitz.
And again, Johns Hopkins, 2nd midfield, going to that invert offense with the pick. Can Virginia make the adjustments?
They do that a lot back there with Wells Stanwyck, and now Radzowitz. Wells Stanwyck trying to get by Davi Sacco. That's been a nice job by Sacco this year, the senior. Matt, he was really a role player for a long, long time. He was forced into action with the injuries from Virginia, and he's played well this year. Ryan Brown cutting across, and his shot goes over the cage. Stanwyck, Wells Stanwyck spinning. Behind his back, it's good. Wells Stanwyck. Count it for Johns Hopkins. 5 in a row.
What a shot from Wells Stanwyck. Lacrosse run thicks in his family's blood, and right here, showing all the hard work and the time spent on the wall. It's actually great defense from Sacco, and then Virginia does not bring the slide in the appropriate area, and Wells Stanwyck makes him pay with the behind the back falling down. Hopkins 6-1 here early in Charlottesville.
And we will be seeing that on the SportsCenter Top 10 later. There's no doubt about it. The only way he could have put it in, falling to his back, Matt, behind his back with the shot. And it's 6-1 Blue Jays. What has happened here? They've scored on their last 5 straight shots.
Johns Hopkins has made a few saves. They've won some ground balls. Virginia has not made any saves. They've lacked communication defensively, and Hopkins is making them pay.
Coach Starsia kind of letting them play through it here to not take a timeout or anything under 3 minutes to go. It's been an onslaught from Johns Hopkins. Cody Radzowitz had the first goal. Greg Caholen came back to tie it up for Virginia. Then it's been Crawley, Brown, Crawley, Tinney, and Stanwyck with 5 straight. for the Blue Jays to go up 6-1.
Credit Johns Hopkins defense. Playing their matchups great. They're communicating off ball. They're not giving any easy opportunities for cutters from Virginia. They're dictating the pace of play here early, and that for them is very key, especially since their confidence is so high coming in this game. It's building and it's building. This is a dangerous team.
When it's space and the shot from outside, Ryan Tucker, who can unleash at over 100 miles per hour, and that one a little bit high with 2 minutes to go in this first quarter. Virginia trying to get something going on the offensive end. And they throw it away, intercepted, and John Kelly has been all over the place so far today for the Blue Jays. That's a third turnover by Virginia.
And a careless one. Ryan Tucker, the number 4 pick in the MLL draft, has a lot of experience. You cannot throw passes in college lacrosse with your feet standing still.
Tenney gets it over for Katoni behind the cage. Shaq Stanwyck feeds it. Tenney has some space, and as Baird was out of the cage, he misfires left, and that could have been an easy one.
Johns Hopkins is executing a game plan to perfection. Virginia does not know what to do off ball. They're getting caught in front of the cage when the ball is behind the cage, on top of the cage. They're not matching up, and Johns Hopkins is finding their lethal shooters wide open.
Tenney had a wide open cage that time, although sailed it a little bit left. Now behind Will Stanwyck. Good rotation here again. Tenney feeds it. Reed. Good ball movement by the Blue Jays in the offensive end. 45 seconds left first quarter.
I wouldn't be surprised if Virginia falls into a zone. They're just not able to match up right now, man for man, against this Johns Hopkins offense that's clicking at a high level.
Tenney. Again back for Will Stanwyck, and his pass in front is intercepted. Taken away, Will McNamara. 3 turnovers now for Johns Hopkins. It's even at 3 apiece. Coming down, getting free. They dump it, and they went for Caholen. Carson Milliken had an opportunity there, number 2 for Virginia, chose to pass it up. And after all that, it's going to go out of bounds off of Virginia, and the Blue Jays have it with 10 seconds to play in the first.
Great transition defense for the Blue Jays. Can they strike with 6 seconds?
Pass in front, finding it somehow is Shaq Stanwyck, and he scores! How did he pull that one out of the air? With 1 second to go, the Blue Jays lead it 7-1. Unreal.
Back-to-back highlight goals for the Blue Jays. What awareness. To get a goal in the last 5 seconds of a quarter is absolutely devastating to your opponent. Oh, and by the way, it's a one-handed snag. Around the world, backhanded shot. Bounces it to the top portions of the cage. This is a freshman making a big-time play in a big-time moment. Hopkins cruising. Well, Stanwyck just knows they had to get a shot off, and what awareness. As good a first quarter as the Blue Jays could have scripted.
No doubt about that. With 1 second left, and Matt Barrett in cage for Virginia. As we look at our edge update, has had a great season, 3rd in the nation in saves per game, but not so far here today. Had given up 6 goals in the last game, has given up 7 here in the first. And Ryan Brown with a goal on 5 shots, and Johns Hopkins dominating the first 15 minutes of play. Round 1 of the NCAA men's lacrosse playoffs. The winner to the quarterfinals, and the Blue Jays take a 6-goal lead to the second after this. In Charlottesville, Virginia this afternoon for game 1 of 4, and the Blue Jays dominating the first quarter. Schneider has 3 saves. They have scored 6 straight. It's been an onslaught, and the Stanwyck brothers, how about what they've done? How about the family? They've scored over 1,000 goals in the history, and here today, a couple of highlight reel ones.
First, the senior Wells, tabletop to the ground, behind the back. What a devastating goal to the Virginia defense. And then here, I just love the awareness, the brothers to one another. Look at the skill, the catch, the backhanded shot. Goals in the last 10 seconds of quarters change games. Not that this game needed a whole lot of changing for Johns Hopkins at the way it was going, but man, that just sealed off one of the best quarters lacrosse you'll ever see.
Our SportsCenter Top 10 crew very busy from that first quarter, clipping those highlights to show later today and throughout the afternoon, for no doubt the way Hopkins was able to run through that first quarter virtually unscathed. I mean, they gave up the one goal to Greg Caholen, but they've made good plays on defense. Schneider has 3 saves. They've been winning faceoffs here, and we'll try to continue things to start the second.
And again, just look for Johns Hopkins to do much of the same. Going to do a lot of off-ball movement, trying to confuse the Virginia defense.
Connor Reed now works it in for Brown. There's a couple of tough shots, and it will draw a flag. Absolutely, it was Tanner Ottenbright that time for Virginia, and clocking Brown up on the helmet. So now to make matters worse, the penalties coming up on the Cavaliers. Johns Hopkins leading 7-1.
And again, Wells Stanwyck coming behind the cage for the big little game. One attackman, one midi to try to get these matchups. And the miscommunication for the Cavaliers defense. Again, I say that over and over and over again, but Hopkins realizes that's Virginia's weakness, and they are taking advantage of it over and over.
Reed sails that one, and we will get the penalty. Tom Abbott, Spike Decker, and Daniel Miller are officials today. And there's a slash on Ottenbright. Right there on the second hit, right into the face of Ryan Brown. So 1 minute now for the Blue Jays on the man up. This season, 45.8% scoring on the extra man, good for 11th in the country. Second most man-up goals in the country have been scored by the Blue Jays with 33. Almost 34. There's that one. Misses just to the left by Patrick Frazier, who's their specialist. Matt comes in. He has 9 on the season.
And he is fun to watch. You look at Ryan Brown, and we know how he can shoot. Frazier, the freshman, is all left-handed, but has equal range to a player like Ryan Brown.
Brown with 30 seconds left in the man up. Jack Stanwyck to Frazier. Brown feeds it in front. Catoni lets it go, and Holden Catoni scores. 8-1 Johns Hopkins.
When you have players like Frazier and Brown, defenses have to extend up, creating lanes inside, and Catoni, the lefty, just finds the zone, turns, makes it look as easy as it should have been. He kept his composure as Virginia looks onto the box, realizing this thing is slipping away quickly.
Yeah, Ottenbright's reaction after the slash created the man up. And we talk about Frazier being a specialist on the man up. Well, Catoni actually is as well. He has now 11 man up goals this season. He was 3rd in the country coming in. Unbelievable. I know, Matt, I look at you. What happened here?
You know, you don't want your face-off specials taking a shot high to high, and a goalie who's proven that's his strong point early in the game. Possessions are too critical right now, especially as Hopkins' offense is doing everything it wants, getting every scoring opportunity wherever they want in the field to whoever they want to throw it to. It's been pretty to watch.
Very frustrating for Virginia, no doubt, especially because all their time right now is being spent on the defensive end. He said you can't have that. That was too quick. Now they want to try to get some of it back, but Stanwyck now works his way in, fights through all the traffic, and finally got it knocked away, and it's picked up by Virginia, and it's Will McNamara. He gets a little bit of a rise out of the crowd here today at Faulkner Stadium.
And Virginia defensively, they're young. On the ball, they're fairly good. They're not going to give up too many one-on-one individual efforts. It's going to take behind the backs like Stanwyck, but it's the off-ball thing. And right there, they did a nice job shoring it up, timing their slide appropriately, and putting Stanwyck in a tough position. Well,
and this was the thing that you and I were talking about before the game, is that exactly what Johns Hopkins does well is what Virginia does not, because Hopkins doesn't have, per se, 1 or 2 or 3 guys that are just going to go one-on-one. They do share the ball. They do make all the passes, and that's why they've been so dominant here.
And it's interesting. A lot of times when you find teams that, Johns Hopkins doesn't really have a player that scares you dodging either. That makes it hard for teams to be that good off the ball, because teams aren't going to slide. They're going to be slow to move to you. But Johns Hopkins does it with picks. They do it with two-man games. They outthink you on the defense or on the offensive end and make it tough for your defense.
There's a flag down. So here's the good news for Virginia. They'll be on the man up. Let's get the call. A slash on Nikon Schuler puts Virginia on the man up. Friday night at 8 p.m. on ESPNU, and watch ESPN. The #1 team in the nation takes the field. LSU will take on South Carolina in baseball action. Friday night at 8 p.m. right here on ESPNU. Baseball's going on right behind us here today too as well. Virginia is in action against Duke. And now the Cavaliers on the man up. You see it 29% this season. Needing a big goal here. Caholen. They dish it and then they take it away. The Blue Jays do on the play there by Eddie Schur. Now fighting for it on the sideline, Ryan Tucker. Will he get it back for the Cavaliers? We'll see. The man up with 25 seconds left. No, a push is called on Virginia. Hopkins ball.
Ryan Tucker, make a play, pick the ball up. Don't hope it goes out of bounds. You have the advantage. Pick up the ground ball, because it turned into a situation where it was clearly Virginia's advantage. And then when the ball didn't go to bounds, there was 2 Hopkins players there and only 1 Virginia. That's why they ended up with the ball.
I wasn't able to even get this stat out here in a moment that we'll mention here, because Hopkins scored another goal. It was basically no team has ever come back from a 6-goal deficit in the first quarter in NCAA tournament history. Now it's a 7-goal lead for the Blue Jays. But typically this game has been nip and tuck. 2 overtime matchups in the regular season in the last 2 years. Last year in the first round, the Blue Jays won 14-8. Look at this hit as Connor Reed takes a shot from Zed Williams, draws a flag, a goal is scored. And the fans want to know what happened here as Shaq Stanwyck puts it in. And it's 9-1.
Connor Reed and Zed Williams, just looks like good old contact. Not sure I see a hold. It doesn't matter, because Connor Reed gets his 3rd assist of the game. Amini gets ahead of steam. Zed Williams does a pretty good job doing his best football impersonation with Connor Reed with the composure. If he can pass the ball like he is today, it adds a whole different element to Johns Hopkins. He's a player that gets his shots when he wants to. He's not a great shooter. But when teams slide out, he's showing the knack for finding the open player.
All right, Matt, there's 9:25 to play in the second quarter. Let's see who gets this face-off here first. It's going to be the Blue Jays. And they'll rotate it. Matt Barrett in cage right now. He's given up 9 goals, has made no saves. Do you even think about making a change right now? It's so early here. What do you think?
He's been your best player all year. I don't even think that's a question for Virginia. He's saved almost 57% of his shots. And these are shots that are on the doorstep. It's a young defense that's learning. So I'd imagine his leash is pretty long, but they need to start making some saves. The first one's the toughest. But their defense also needs to do a better job of making Hopkins work for some shots so they can get the confidence that he needs in the cage to make some of the stops.
I mean, trick shots, one-handed shots, players falling down. Everything's gone in today for the Blue Jays.
You can really see from up here, Hopkins times their cuts perfectly. There's always someone open on the interior.
The second midfield group is in, and that's Crowley shooting, and that one goes high. Cody Radzowitz, Kieran Eisler in there as well. The attack with Ryan Brown, Shaq Stanwyck, and Wells Stanwyck, the 6 right now on the field for the Blue Jays, who lead it by 8. Crowley, and that got deflected on its way in, and that's basically the first save of the game today from Matt Barrett. A.J. Fish works it in, and here's a shot from Virginia. And that one by Owen Van Arsdale, and Schneider able to clean that one up as well.
Virginia settling there for a shot too far out of the cage. Snyder is seeing the ball well. You're going to have to make him work, and you're not shooting the ball stick side low from 15 on a goalie playing at his level right now. That's his 5th save of the game.
Are you okay with the shot, just not with the positioning, or did you want him to pull it back out a little bit more?
I don't think you pull that one out. You're going to need to score when the opportunities present themselves. You just got to execute.
The team executing today, obviously, Johns Hopkins here now with Connor Reed up to Tinney. Tinney gets by his man.
Push 44! 44!
Tony. You can see everyone getting involved. Every single player almost has a chance. They start their dodge, okay, not there, then they back it out. And everyone seems to have touched the ball at the offensive end.
They're playing a complete team game offensively. Everyone is involved. If you don't have the ball, you're taking a timely cut. You're always making your defensive player cognizant of where you are, and then it makes it just so much easier for your offense.
Brown turns and shoots and scores, and Ryan Brown now with 2 today. Blue Jays have put up a 10 spot, and we still have 6:25 to go in this first half.
Ryan Brown gets the matchup he wants. He's not dodging a long stick, but when he has a short stick defensive player on him, he doesn't need much room. The lefty bounce shot, Hopkins rolling.
Quint in the studio. We'll look at the other first-round matchups today coming up at the first half of this game. What is Hopkins doing offensively that has Virginia out of sorts?
Well, they've stayed with their normal offensive pattern. That is the first midfields operate up top, the second midfield inverts. I cannot believe Virginia did not call timeout at the 5-1 mark. Way too late, because this game's over, Anish.
Mike and Matt.
All right, thanks, Anish and Quint, and I agree with you, Quint. I don't know why they haven't called a timeout either. Virginia is taking it right now, 10-1 Blue Jays. Coming up right after us, Denver and Brown. That's at 3 o'clock Eastern. Winner of that plays Ohio State, and Denver surely would like to stay at home because that is in Denver. Our side of the bracket here with this game. Winner between the Blue Jays and the Cavaliers take on the winner of Syracuse and Marist. That game is tonight at 7:30 Eastern right here on ESPNU. They'll go to Annapolis, Maryland for the quarterfinals next Sunday. 10 first half goals. It ties the best this season, and that was against UMBC back in the first game of the year in which they won 16-4. They're not done. They have 6:25 still left in this first half. And a procedure, and it's going to Hopkins here after the face-off.
And I think an error on Virginia's part was they didn't even, the one possession they actually got a stop or a turnover was when they played zone defense. I think they need to at least change something early on because the man-to-man was not working. Now the problem is you can't go zone because it allows the offense to kill too much time and you're down by 9 goals. So they're in a very tough position now. You have to make that switch earlier in the game when the game's at least close, because you can still make some offensive opportunities.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, almost like when it's maybe 4 or 5 and then you're starting to sense, okay, we're not getting this done this way. But it's a great point. Time's going to become a factor pretty soon. Tinney dishes it. Stanwyck, dangerous pass across the field. A tough one, I should say. They got knocked down and taken away by the Cavaliers. Here they come. Jack Falk. 5 turnovers by the Blue Jays. Hasn't mattered, though. They're up by 9. Milliken. And a high shot. Sailing, and it's Blue Jays ball. Schneider getting behind to get closest to that one. And Matt, you said it, on the offensive end, when they have had their last 3 possessions, the shots have come too quick.
Yeah, and 2 of those shots have come from their faceoff specialist, Jason Murphy, and a defensive midi in Milliken. It's just not going to work in this game. Yes, you're down by a lot, but you have to be patient because you can only chip away at this thing so quickly.
How about Schneider's hustle after this shot? He knew it was going well high. Watch this.
And right here, he's confident in the shot. He explodes high. He knows Virginia doesn't have anyone backing up the opportunity and steals a possession.
That's great awareness by the graduate student. Schneider has come alive for the Blue Jays at the end of this season. Trying to finish off his career in style, and so are the Blue Jays here this season, which they have won 5 in a row, playing their best lacrosse at obviously the right time. Virginia hasn't scored in almost 20 minutes. Blue Jays continue to unleash this one by Kieran Eisler. Brown, it's going to be a moving pick. Called on Johns Hopkins and John Crawley. Let's see what happens here. Once again, a shot right at Schneider by Jack Falk, the freshman midfielder for Virginia.
There's really no other way to say it. Virginia is playing like a high school lacrosse team right now, not keeping their composure at all. You're taking shots in the run from a D-midi with a goalie who is seeing everything. It's not going to work. You can't be that stubborn offensively. You have to go back to what works. They've just not put enough pressure on Schneider, who has 6 saves now and only 1 goal allowed.
It's not what you've expected from this Virginia team, and certainly not in this matchup, which is typically very close. 90th meeting between these two here today. Cutting in front, Tony getting the feed from Reed, and he scores again. Connor Reed has 4 assists, and that's the 2nd goal today for Katoni.
And just here, simple cut to the near side, lack of communication again. These Hopkins players are so skilled inside that you cannot allow them to get their hands open that close to the cage. Michael Howard for Virginia, number 16, needs to be near side on that and cannot allow Holden Katoni's left hand to come open on the interior.
Can't imagine what Coach Starsia is thinking right now. I mean, he's probably hoping that this 3:34 ticks down pretty darn quick. They have yet to use a timeout. Connor Reed, who Coach Petramala told us this past week has been playing much, much better. They're excited about his play. And why not? We've seen it flags all over the place here now. Reed coming in, had just 10 assists on the season. He has 4 in this ball game. The officials are going to get together here with 3:21 left.
A technical foul on 19 in the white. 30-second foul, push. 19 white.
And that's on Jeff Kratke. So he's out for 30 seconds. Johns Hopkins 1 for 1 on the man up today. Brown, look at this. Unbelievable. Shaq Stanwyck, Barrett was looking the other way.
And this is a new version of the hidden ball trick. The ball, they actually, wait till you see this. It wasn't a flip. It was an in-air transition. And Virginia had no idea that the ball was in Ryan Brown's stick. Just watch this. This is such creativity. This is stuff you do when you're a little kid on the playground. The simple pass from 2 seconds away.
They all think right there, well, Stanwyck, 42 has it. See him shaking his stick down the left side. It's Ryan Brown on the far side, feeding a wide open Shaq Stanwyck.
You don't see that very often. It's usually a flip down low. But this was up high, and it was simply just a quick pass from an inch away into Ryan Brown's stick. And right here you can see it's just right here the ball transitions. Hopkins doubles it up with another one, and Forrestal has it. Only one player recognizes that Brown had the ball, and Michael Howard. Everyone else ball watching Shaq Stanwyck, or sorry, Wells Stanwyck, excuse me, on the other side of the field.
Unbelievable. And Johns Hopkins just embarrassing Virginia right now, to say the least. 12-1, 3:12 left in this first half. And they have done a little bit of everything the Blue Jays have in this first frame. And they are trying to get to the quarterfinals in Annapolis next Sunday. They will take on the winner of Syracuse and Marist. That game is later tonight, right here on ESPNU. This is the first of 4 games today in the first round of the NCAA Men's Lacrosse Championship, presented by Northwestern Mutual. And Hopkins, unless they have a monumental collapse here and somehow Virginia just gets it back and plays the way that they have played this season, which has been pretty darn good. It looks like Hopkins is going to put their name on that right-hand column. And Schneider has been outstanding. 6 saves in the first half. Here's what he's done so far here today in this first frame.
Eric Schneider has not been tested much, but has been up to the challenge every time Virginia's had an opportunity to score. A number in transitions. He's just playing his angles and playing high very well.
Kratky at the X for Virginia. Hunter Moreland for Johns Hopkins. Ottenbright able to get that one for the Cavaliers with 3 minutes to go in the first half. Virginia hosting their 10th NCAA first round game in the last 11 years. They lost to the Blue Jays last year in the first round, 14-8, but that game was a 1-goal game towards the end of the third quarter. This one drastically different here today.
You look at it, Hopkins is having a ton of fun today. The way they're playing, they're being creative, they're loose, they're relaxed. Virginia, completely on the other end of the spectrum. They're playing very tight, they're not communicating, they're giving up easy opportunities inside, and then offensively, they're really forcing it.
There's a shot here from Lukovic, and Schneider again on the save. And kicked out of the crease, and behind the back shot here by Owen Van Arsdale. And it'll be backed up by the Cavaliers, and a timeout is taken by Johns Hopkins. It was kind of almost the first real offensive set for at least a couple of seconds that we saw by Virginia in this first half, Matt. So Johns Hopkins with a big-time lead here, and this team and what they have done this season, they have been resilient. That was the word that Coach Petramala used. It was only a short time ago, and he says, we're human, we forget. But back on January 26th, their freshman defenseman, Jeremy Huber, passed away suddenly. They're wearing the number 19 on the back of their helmets, on their jerseys, honoring Jeremy Huber throughout this season as he passed away at the end of January. We had a chance to ask Dave Petramala about that day.
All day. We lost a young man who was a really good person. You know, and a lot of times when someone passes or something happens, people always talk nice about them. Everybody that talks about him means, you know, he was a great young man. In a short period of time, he touched a lot of lives. And, you know, I brought him here, and I promised him we'd take care of him. And he passed away on my watch. That's a tough thing to swallow.
I want to thank Lacrosse Magazine for their access to that interview there with Coach Dave Petromall, who I just talked to earlier today on the field, and asked him about that. You know, how have you been able to move forward, to get through this? And you know, he said, we say a prayer. You know, we've been honoring him all season, but there was a point that came towards the middle of the season when he had a talk with the team after practice and said, hey, look, we do have to try to move forward, and by moving forward, it's not dishonoring Jeremy's memory. And the players bought into that. They recognize that. They still honor him, and here they are now doing what he would want to see happen. A 12-1 advantage over Virginia, and a chance to continue their season next week in the quarterfinals. This team has been special and has been through so much. Cavaliers with 1:35 to play first half. It's in the stick of Lukovic, working around, shooting and scoring. So Ryan Lukovic gets one to go by Schneider, the first in a long time, and it's now 12-2.
Virginia does a nice job here, offensively drawing slides, passing, and they get Lukovic matched up against Pellegrino, who's a long stick midi, meaning he's usually in front of the cage. He's not as familiar with the angles behind the cage. And it doesn't take much for Lukovic to get his hands free and bury it to the far portion of the goal. Nice awareness by Lukovic to know that Pellegrino is on him. Pellegrino needs to make contact earlier behind the cage, which is contrary to what he's doing up top as a long stick midi. Snapping a 22-minute drought for the Virginia Cavaliers.
Almost 23 minutes in between goals. Unreal. This was a 1-1 ball game. And the Blue Jays just went on fire, to say the least. 11 straight, finally snapped by that goal by Lukovic. And he'll pick this one up off the turf. And now Virginia calls a timeout with 1 minute and 15 seconds left, second quarter. Some highlights from what we've seen so far here by the Blue Jays. How about Shaq Stanwyck? Already has a hat trick in this first half.
Shaq Stanwyck, the #1 recruit in the country. Said to be more like his older brother, Steele. A little bit more of a creator, but today he's creating off the ball, getting his hands free. The easy one there at the end after the amazing stick fake. His future is incredibly bright for Johns Hopkins. This year, he's playing like the little brother. You know, it's fortunate when your older brother's an All-American in Wells, but he has all the skills in the world to create for himself, but also to get his teammates involved. He will be one of the best players, and look till next year, he will have a significant increase in production.
His brother right there in Wells Stanwyck. I mean, Shaq Stanwyck is the first freshman with at least 15 goals and 15 assists at Johns Hopkins since 1992 to do that in a season. So, and the sister's a pretty decent player as well. I mean, these are the active Stanwicks right now.
And these are just the actives. You know, the older sisters were phenomenal as well. Steele is great. They're just it's a family that loves the game. They've been great for the game. It's fun to watch them develop. The good thing is we still have 3 more years of Shaq Stanwyck.
Don't you love it when you're an assistant coach and you have recruiting areas and places and states, and well, you just have the Stanwyck family, okay? That's where you need to recruit. I mean, it's unbelievable the amount of players that have come out from that family and have been as successful throughout their careers. 10-goal lead for the Blue Jays. Under a minute to go in this first half. Here's Caholen. Dumps it across the field, and a shot this time from Tyler German, and picked up by Johns Hopkins, running the other way. Castronova. And with 28 seconds to play in this first half, Johns Hopkins will call a timeout. And it may look like Coach Petromalla wasn't happy with the sequence, but he's about to take a 10-goal lead into the locker room at halftime, maybe more. Here's a look at the bracket. Winner takes on the winner of Syracuse and Marist. That's tonight at 7:30 here on ESPNU. This is the first of 4 games today. Coming up next, it's Denver and Brown at the bottom of the screen there, 3 o'clock Eastern.
Better believe the over-under in that game will be pretty high. Both those teams like to get up and down. Denver, I wouldn't say they play fast. They play pretty efficient, though. They score almost every time they have the ball, and then Brown loves to put it on the ground, push it up in transition.
Well, they'll be sped up today. There's no doubt about it versus that Brown team. How about what we've seen so far in the first day and plus here in this weekend of the first round of the playoffs?
It was an interesting day. You know, 2 upsets from a seeding perspective. Albany, I think, probably the favorite in that game, especially with Lyle Thompson healthy. And then Ohio State last night knocking off the 2-time defending champions and the Duke Blue Devils. I mean, talk about a Jekyll and Hyde team. Last night they looked as good as anyone. Their skills and their stick skills were sharp. Scored at will. They were creating offensively, individually. They were passing. They were drawing slides, moving the ball through X. But then they have games like when they play Notre Dame and they get shut out. So which Ohio State team shows up? It's incredible. They can beat anyone, but they could also lose to anyone as well.
And we were watching that game last night in the restaurant, and every time we looked down for a split second look up, another goal was scored by Ohio State. A huge win there over the defending champs. They will be in Denver next Saturday. You and I will be there, Matt, along with Ryan Boyle, bringing in the quarterfinals here on ESPNU. Will it be Brown and Denver, the 4th team in that bracket? We'll find out right after us. Cutting in front now is Ryan Brown getting the pass from Will Stanwick, and he scores with 17 seconds left in the second quarter.
Matt Barrett has 0 saves in the game, but you cannot fault him on the majority of these. Just simple inside. Again, Wells Stanwick here is not a threat to score. How someone gets open on the interior that easily is confusing, and Coach Starja must be shaking his head. The defense is spiraling right now.
15 seconds left in this first half. Will Hopkins score again? We'll see. Pellegrino, and knocked out of his stick. And 6 seconds now to wind down this first half, and Virginia needs to regroup. German gets it to go, and Schneider makes a save, and that's the end of the first half. That's 9 saves now for Schneider. Why not give him an extra one here? Ryan Brown, 3 goals, 2 assists in the first half. The Blue Jays scored 11 straight. 13-2, a halftime lead here over Virginia on the road. Winner to the quarterfinals. Now let's head to the studio for the halftime report.
I got nothing. I did not see 13-2.
Well, you got 2 teams trending in opposite directions, and the bottom half of the ACC now. Last night's game, Duke, and now Virginia. If you're Virginia, I got to go back to not calling timeout after Hopkins scores on 4 straight shots to take a 5-1 lead. You have 2 timeouts in your back pocket. You don't use them there, and yet then you're using them late in the second quarter to save a possession when this game is long over. The Virginia defense has no answers to John Crawley and the invert. That's when a midfielder attacks from behind the cage. Here he is, this time right-handed. You see the switch defensively, but there's no help. Crawley has 2. Radzewicz also scored a goal. Connor Reed in the first midfield, a standard approach where they dodge from up top. And Reed has been running by his man like he's standing still. Tinney and Catoni have had excellent stick work, and the Stanwicks have played well as well. So Virginia didn't like the non-timeout, unprepared defensively, unprepared emotionally, and Matt Barrett, who's been their best player this season, their goalie, I have him for 1 save. The stats have him for 0 saves.
For 0. And we've watched Virginia in person a few times this season. Defensively, they're banged up. Injuries have taken a toll. They're young back there. Matt Barrett, for the most part, has had an outstanding season this year. They need him to play well to have a chance to win against high-caliber opponents. If he doesn't play well, there really is no shot for Virginia.
Agreed.
From Johns Hopkins in that first half, 13-2. They take an 11-goal lead into the second half. Hi, everybody. Mike Corey alongside Matt Ward. Well, it's the understatement of the day to say that we saw this coming.
Definitely did not, but Johns Hopkins putting on a clinic offensively. Everyone involved on the 6-on-6 games. They're using their pick game from behind very well. Everyone moving off ball. And oh, by the way, they've had 3 incredible highlight reel goals. Wells Stanwyck tabletop to the ground, over the shoulder to the far goal. For one, oh, my older brother does something, I'm doing better. One-handed snag, backhands it near post, all in one motion. And then Hopkins with a little playground lacrosse. The hidden ball fake fools everyone, including the camera. Shaq Stanwyck wide open on the back end. Just phenomenal lacrosse. Not often do you see a play like that, where you've never seen it before. We've seen the hidden ball tricks down low around your waist. Very rarely do you ever see them up by your head. Innovation on the offensive end for Johns Hopkins.
Let's take a look at our second half plan for success, brought to you by Northwestern Mutual, and an update on your keys from the start of the game.
You know, Johns Hopkins, very skilled, and their off-ball opportunities, they've assisted on 8 goals. 2 of the other goals have come off picks from behind, so again, creating all kinds of issues for Virginia and their defense from a communication standpoint.
Here we go to start the second half. Jason Murphy at the face-off X for Virginia, and it was Drew Kennedy for Johns Hopkins. Face-offs were even at 8 apiece from the first half. Virginia starts the second half on offense, and the largest halftime deficit to come back and win a game in NCAA history was 5. And it happened twice. In 2013, Denver beat UNC, and in 1976, Cornell beat Maryland. The only time teams have come back from a 5-goal deficit, that's the most at halftime in history, and here it's 11.
It would be a miracle for Virginia to make this game close. Hopkins just playing at a higher level. And they've been playing at a higher level for the last month or so. They've really come into their own after a lot of ups and downs early in the season. They look fantastic.
Ryan Tucker swings it for Caholen. It's by Carlini, shoots, and scores. So the second half starts out well for Virginia as Greg Caholen puts it in.
Greg Caholen, arguably Virginia's best offensive player this year, 39 goals on the season. Rights the ship to start the second half, gets a matchup against a short stick, and just to the far post. Nice compact shot. Keeps the stick by his ear the entire time, makes it very hard for trail checks. Gets Virginia on the board here early, 13-3.
Caholen had the second goal of the game, which tied things up after Radzewicz opened the scoring today for Johns Hopkins. Hunter Mullen wins the faceoff, and a shot from Brown goes wide to the right. We'll stay with the Blue Jays, and at least if you're Virginia, and I'm sure Coach Tom Starsia at halftime, and you went here, Matt, so you know, but guys, let's play the right way. Let's play the way we know how to play. Let's try to do that. Don't worry about the time. And maybe if we do that, we'll score a few goals, and you never know. But they certainly were not playing Virginia lacrosse in the first half.
From a coaching perspective, you can't look at this game as just this season. It has ramifications for your program. You're a young team. You faced a lot of injuries. Your season's been more successful than you probably thought. Play a great second half. Build some momentum going into next year so these kids, when they come in, knowing they'll have a little bit more experience, they can right the ship and start the program going to where they are truly a national contender. This year, they've kind of been a pretender. They've been in the top 10, but they've never been a team you think, hey, they can win this thing. They have the athletes, they have the skill set, they have the recruits coming in. They just need to build on the confidence.
Oh, in the crease there. Shaq Stanwyck turns it over. Cavaliers, the number 7 seed in this tournament, hosting the Blue Jays for the second straight year in the NCAA championship. 16th meeting overall between these two in the playoffs. That's the most in NCAA tournament history between a pair of teams, and they've got together. Zed Williams. Ray Fish. Shut down by John Kelly. Caholen. Williams gets free, unleashes one, and Schneider makes a great save. Ball is loose, picked up by the Blue Jays, and it's Nick Fields. Schneider, as Pellegrino is still down. Castronova flips it up. Shaq Stanwyck racing after it. It's going to be knocked out off of Virginia. We mentioned how Johns Hopkins, Matt, towards the second half of the year, the turning point, Coach Petramella told us this week, was that Penn State overtime win and then also the Maryland win. A little bit later on, they had not had back-to-back wins all season. Now they've rattled off 5 straight, and a win here today would be 6 straight.
And I would point towards that Maryland game a little bit more.
Eisler, he puts it in now. Kieran Eisler for Johns Hopkins. They get the goal right back here in the third.
The Penn State game, they squeaked out the victory in overtime. The Maryland game was a clinic. They played great team lacrosse, a lot like they are today. Kieran Eisler, just a nice little face dodge here, gets to his strong hand, plants his feet, just absolute gaps to the upper portion of the goal.
Well, the Penn State win in double overtime was back on April 11th. And then Maryland, it was at Maryland on April 25th. They ended up getting a 15-12 win there. So some key wins for this team, playing their best lacrosse. Face-off won by Virginia, and what a feed from Jeff Kratke to Ryan Lukovic for the goal. That happened quick. And it's 14-4.
The game of lacrosse is phenomenal as you can score goals in bunches. Just a nice pinch and pop. Kratke picks it up, carries deep, draws Johns Hopkins defenders up, and finds Lukovic on the doorstep. They only need 6 or 7 more of those to get this game competitive.
9 seconds after the faceoff. Coverage of the NCAA championships continue with the NCAA men's lacrosse quarterfinals May 16th, next Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, right here on ESPNU in Denver, Colorado. For more information on the NCAA men's lacrosse quarterfinal round, log on to ncaa.com, the official online home for all 89 NCAA championships. The game after us, Brown at Denver, and the winner moves on to the quarterfinals in Denver. For Denver, they would stay home. Brown trying to pull off the upset. They've got a high-powered team that's coming up right after us. Game 2 of 4 here today on ESPNU.
It's the best time of the year from a lacrosse fan perspective. See the best teams in the country play 8 games in 2 days.
Tinney, Joel Tinney. For Catoni. How about that first half? 13 goals by the Blue Jays. 8 of them were assisted. The movement in everyone's step, it seems like, in the offensive end for the Blue Jays. Very assertive. Here's a shot. Wells Stanwyck, and takes a hit and puts it in. Unbelievable. The angle of Wells Stanwyck that time to score that goal.
Johns Hopkins capitalizing in every moment. Wells Stanwyck find himself goal line extended, and Milliken just leaves the quarterback of this Hopkins offense wide open. He's a righty-lefty type player, shoots it near side high. When offenses recognize every opportunity that presents themselves and they can capitalize, that's when lacrosse is fun to watch. Hopkins has just been tremendous today, taking advantage of every single opportunity that's presented itself.
Face-off is won by them. Phil Castronova gets it up. Pellegrino, Shaq Stanwyck in front. Well, Stanwyck behind his back. Couldn't get that one to go. Chases after it. And a push on Virginia will keep it with the Blue Jays. Imagine if they had that one to go, too. Oh, boy. Tic-tac-toe there with that last possession. O'Reilly is warming up on these sidelines, the backup goalkeeper for Virginia. Man, Barrett did not have any saves in that first half. So it was 13-2. Shaq Stanwyck's pass. And that is a turnover. The rule here in college lacrosse this year, and a pass, and it goes over midfield. It's like a backcourt violation in basketball. Goes to Virginia. Tyler German, checked by Joe Carlini for the Cavaliers. German feeds it up Caholen, and saved by Schneider, and picked up out of the midair by Eddie Schur.
And that's a big-time save from Schneider. Caholen, hands free from 8 yards. Schneider saw it the whole way. And again, when you look at Johns Hopkins' season, they really struggled in the cage early on. They were making 3, 4, 5 saves a game, and they were still in the game, right? So this was a team that didn't have the skills. They just needed their senior goaltender to regain some form and some confidence. And you can see here on the side of your screen, Caholen, Virginia's best shooter, just absolutely read from the start to finish by Schneider. And if Hopkins can get double-digit saves, they can beat anyone because offensively they're so skilled.
Only half today. He's got 10 saves. Tenney shoots and he scores. Joel Tenney. And it's happening so quick on the offensive end for Johns Hopkins. 16-4. 16 shots on goal by the Blue Jays. 16 goals. Unreal today in Charlottesville. Johns Hopkins has tied a season high for goals, 16-4 here with a lead over Virginia. That was the score of their first game of the year over UMBC. How about the Stanwicks today? We'll start with Shaq.
The senior doing it himself with the nice behind the back. And then the lefty low-angled shot, just pinging the corner, and Wells Stanwyck, the #1 recruit in the country, doing it off ball today. The recipient of a hidden ball trick on a man-up play for Johns Hopkins. Has to be fun to play with your brother.
I was going to say I had that reverse there, but, you know, every Stanwyck is so good that, you know, sometimes you don't know who it is. And Shaq and Wells, unbelievable what they've done in this ball game and this season. New goalkeeper now for the Cavaliers. O'Reilly is in. 23 minutes of action on the season, his 5th game of the year. As the Blue Jays continue to extend their advantage, 11 at halftime, now 12 here midway through the 3rd. Popped up in the air, and Kratky has it. Here he comes, shoots, and Schneider's been unreal today. Another save. And diving after it, they'll give it to the Blue Jays. They'll say Nick Fields was closest. Schneider with 11 saves. Barrett, who we featured in the open mat on the edge, no saves. And taken out of this ball game midway through the 3rd.
Couldn't have predicted that. Schneider, while playing better recently, had really struggled all year. Barrett was in contention for, you know, 1st, 2nd, 3rd team All-American based on how he had performed all season. Today, no saves. Maybe a couple of those early on the inverts that Johns Hopkins scored, you'd expect him to make, but it's been offensive efficiency and brilliance for Johns Hopkins, more so than Matt Barrett struggling in the cage today, from my perspective.
No, I agree with you. You have to give Barrett some credit. I mean, he was 3rd in the country coming in with 183 saves. To not make any in 2.5 quarters, I mean, you just don't see that. And he's got a bright future still ahead. Just a sophomore. He's going to be done for the rest of the day today and this season, most likely for Virginia. But just wasn't happening for them. And it's kind of an indication of the day that they've had. There's Barrett. And here's a guy that had 20 saves versus Syracuse, then 21 versus Cornell.
And he had a tough freshman year. He was thrown into the fire starting right away. If not the hardest transition from high school to college in the game is the goaltender position. And he had his ups and downs. Against Johns Hopkins in the regular season last year, he was amazing. He had some games where he struggled. This year, overall, incredible improvement. I hope he, as a player, can realize that this is one game. It wasn't a snapshot of his season, because he had a tremendous season, and Virginia is going to need him to be the best goalie in the country next year to take that next step where they can become a serious contender come May.
And they're also going to have to help him out on the defensive end. Here's Tinney getting the feed from Shaq Stanwyck. Just too easy. Joel Tinney. Back-to-back goals for him, and he has a hat trick today.
Just off ball, Johns Hopkins, they are so smart. Offensive, timing their cuts at perfect times. Right here, it's just a simple cut. Ryan Brown uses a pick with his back to get Tinney free. Hopkins right now has 17 goals on 29 shots, shooting over 50%. You never see that, and it's because they've been so efficient offensively. They're shooting from the doorstep every time, uncontested.
I've run out of room on my goal tracker. Our stat man Russ DeLynn still has 4 slots left, but we have 5:27 left here in the 3rd quarter, and the scoring has not stopped. 17-4, Johns Hopkins. And for the Blue Jays, making a major change in their history and with their team and university, entering the Big Ten Conference in the inaugural season. Independent all that time, and joining a league here, and that was the difference, Matt, this season for them. They would not be here today if it wasn't for that, because their record leading up to it wasn't enough to warrant an at-large bid to the tournament. So this time, and Coach Petromala says he loves it, it's another season, and that's what they were able to play for when they were struggling earlier this year at 4-6. They win the Big Ten championship over Ohio State last Saturday. They have the automatic berth, and now they're going to win their 6th straight game and move on to the quarterfinals.
It's one of the things that I think Coach Petromala would tell you he was most excited about in joining the Big Ten was the postseason within the conference. Your season is never over if you can make it to your conference semifinals and finals, win it, and you're in the NCAA tournament. Because Hopkins is always going to have the players and the athletes to compete. And if you have a game like this, where they're going to be so confident, they're going to think they can beat just about anyone in the country, and they can. And they're in it, and they have an opportunity to make a run to Memorial Day.
Here's Caholen, sails it high and wide. Stays with Virginia. He told us, he said, yeah, the fact that we shared the regular season and won the championship for the Big Ten legitimizes the decision that they made as a university to go into a conference. A.J. Fish behind the net, works it in. Shot looked like it went off the post. And Schneider has had one heck of a day inside the cage there for the Blue Jays. Now in front, and again, here's Ryan Lokovic. Virginia just not getting the breaks. Zed Williams spinning, shooting, and that goes off the post as well.
I think Schneider actually made a save with his foot. That was an active play by Schneider. Nice job for Zed Williams to get his hands over. He's going to try it again. But Schneider seeing everything from start to finish in this game. Look at the emotion from Schneider, fired up.
The shot went off Eisler, and then he got it. And now here's Pellegrino, and that bounce shot goes to the left. Just a lot of energy today by Johns Hopkins, and And Coach Petromala had thought coming in that this Virginia team, he says how much different they are at home and how much better they play here. And the more energy and the physicalness that they bring to the game here at home, but it just certainly wasn't the case today. The Blue Jays have taken advantage of it. Connor Reed dumps it to Wells Stanwood. Connor Reed has 5 assists today.
A third of his assists for the season have come today.
Exactly. There he is again. And over the head of Ryan Brown that time. But to talk about the confidence, man, you're absolutely right. I mean, a game like this and what this does for your confidence heading into the quarterfinals. They will take on the winner of Marist and Syracuse. That's tonight in our nightcap. The final 4 games today on ESPNU. That's at 7:30. Winners play in Annapolis next Sunday for the quarterfinals. Under 2 minutes to go in the third.
When you think of the Big Ten Conference, after today, they're going to be 3-0 in the first round. Everyone's talking about the ACC, the ACC, the ACC. Well, the Big Ten won their 2 matchups against the ACC. It will be a power conference for sure.
That's a great point. Everybody in the ACC made it into the tournament. They're all hosting. Virginia was 0-4 in the conference this year. They got a 7 seed hosting a first-round playoff game. German off the feed from Williams.
Kick right! Zipper! Zipper! Zipper!
And you hear the communication on defense by Johns Hopkins. The flag is thrown. All facets of the game today they have excelled in. Schneider, big one right there, and on another save, 13th of the day.
Well, you have to be happy for Snyder. He went through a very tough patch early in the year. He wasn't seeing the ball clearly. More of a confidence thing than anything else, though.
30-second hold coming up on Friday night. #1 team in the country in college baseball in action. LSU versus South Carolina at 8 Eastern right here on ESPNU. Man up here for Virginia. Van Arsdale. Lukovic, that's up the post. Coach Petromala furious down on the sidelines. 7 seconds left on the man up. Virginia gets it back. Here they go. And Schneider again on the Owen Van Arsdale shot with a save. 14 now.
What a pass by Snyder there. And a nice job by Castronova at the midfield line to get open.
Castronova, and a save by Raley, and the crowd lets out the cheer because, Matt, that is the first save of the day by any goalkeeper today for Virginia, and it takes us to the end of the third. Blue Jays 50 minutes away from moving on to Annapolis in the quarterfinals next Sunday. Back with more after this. Blue Jays 17, Virginia 4 as we get set for the fourth quarter today in Charlottesville, Virginia. Game 1 of 4 today on ESPNU. Mike Corey, Matt Ward. Not what we expected, but it's been a rout by the Blue Jays. And you hear champion, well, they're going to be one of 8 teams that have a chance to be the champion after today's game.
Live to fight another day for the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays. Thoroughly dominant in every aspect of this game, offensively in the middle of the field, defensively in the cage. Just putting on a clinic here in Charlottesville, Virginia.
And the faceoffs, like they are in every game, obviously a key, and especially in this one because the Blue Jays really did a great job of winning the majority of them in the first meeting, in which they lost in overtime, 16-15 during the regular season. And today it's now 13-11 in favor of the Blue Jays. Doesn't really matter though. Brown and a save for the second time today. Really. And now Milliken. Was too far out there with that shot from Zed Williams.
I think that's the 5th post Virginia's hit here. Nothing's going their way today. But again, I think you're right. Again, Virginia's in a position now where they're forcing the issue a little bit offensively. That shot probably a little bit outside Zed Williams' range. They just need to work on what they can control now. This game is, by all facets, pretty much over, but they just want to put together a good quarter here and get some confidence into the offseason.
Nice shot from Ryan Tucker.
Great awareness from Fields. That's the second shot he's won to the end line.
Closest to a shot where when it goes out gets possession. It belongs to Hopkins as Fields is closest to it with 13:55 remaining in the game, just underway in the 4th. Let's not forget about Virginia and the amount of injuries and players that they expected to have this season coming in now that they have not. You know, that certainly plays a factor, and especially in a playoff game too. You think about that. It's tough as it is to have young players in a group that you weren't expecting to have, and the job that Tom Starsia and his staff have done to get this team to this point at 10-4, hosting a playoff game, very commendable. But then now in the playoffs, it's a totally different thing, right? You have young guys, no experience, and it's showing here today.
It's hard not to look at a season and how it ends. Only one team gets to hold the trophy, though, and for them to have not lost a game outside the ACC all season, to win the games they were supposed to win, with the amount of injuries they had on the offensive, defensive end, with the youth on the defensive end, you can take positives from this. It's going to be hard. It's going to take a few days because this game's going to sting.
Well, that's the thing. You're absolutely right. They're only one of 2 teams in the entire country to have an undefeated non-conference schedule, then Virginia and Syracuse. They went through their non-conference play unscathed, and it's really been the conference that they've struggled, but it's against the best teams in the country. Two of the most storied programs in the history of college lacrosse. Johns Hopkins with 9 national championships, Virginia with 5. They're 2 of the top 3 teams in the amount of appearances that they've made to the tournament. 43 for the Blue Jays, that's the best all time, and Virginia with 37. Not going to end favorably for them here today, but you get excited about this matchup every single time. 90 times that they've gotten together, and just, you know, expect this. Brown, bounce shot. Looking for the shot clock on there.
Not even the shot clock. It's just kind of amazing to me watching this game how easy it is for Johns Hopkins to get open. That was just in a simple adjacent pass to Ryan Brown, the leading goal scorer in the country. There was no one within 5 yards of him for no reason. So Virginia, they just need to pick it up and communicate it better. Another opportunity there. They don't talk through a pick. It's the most underappreciated piece of defense isn't who has the best athletes. It's who has the best communication. Every team's got good athletes and can play one-on-one defense. It's who can communicate when they're off ball to make sure that they're doing their job and roles and responsibility, but also making sure their teammates are doing it. You have to play team defense to compete. Hopkins has, Virginia's not.
Stanwicks almost combined for another goal. That was Wells to Shack. And here comes Virginia this time. Well, I'm with you. But the fact is that Johns Hopkins also has so many great players that there really isn't any, like I said, there's no keys, but anybody can beat you. That's the thing. I mean, communication certainly, but at some point, they're just going to have a command over the younger, inexperienced opponent.
When you look at Johns Hopkins, they're not a team that I think you prep saying, hey, we have to stop number 14, number 22, whoever it may be, from scoring for themselves. You know that they are going to pick you apart with their stick skills, with their lacrosse knowledge, their off-ball type plays, because they have players like Wells Stanwick who thrive in that environment. And you know that. You have to just focus on that and make sure that you take away their best players. Ryan Brown should not be getting open inside, and yes, it's hard because anyone from Hopkins can beat you, but it's also been a lack of discipline on the Virginia side, as well as great play from Johns Hopkins.
There's Greg Caholen. Shakes free, puts up a shot, it's high, and Fields is closest once again. So Johns Hopkins gets this one back. This is the first of 4 games today on ESPNU. Coming up right after us, it's Brown and Denver. The Pioneers hoping to stay home. They host the quarterfinal round in Denver next Saturday. The game starts at 3 p.m. Eastern in just about a minute and a half. It'll start on ESPN News, and then we will get you to that when we are done here in Charlottesville. The winner of this game takes on the winner of Marist and Syracuse. That's our nightcap tonight at 7:30 p.m. And the quarterfinals next Sunday in Annapolis, Maryland. Now top of the feed from Kevin O'Toole, it's Cody Radzowitz who scores for Johns Hopkins. Had the first goal of the game and gets this one here.
Much of the same for Johns Hopkins. Great team offense. Cody Radzowitz just steps near side. Crawley finds him. He blows it by Aurelian Cage. High to high. The second midfield for Johns Hopkins, very impressive today. His team is deep, which will serve them greatly as we get to the hotter days of the NCAA tournament as we get closer to Memorial Day.
And pardon me, you're right. It was Crawley with the assist. Radzowitz, though, his second goal here today. And it's 18-4. The record for goals in a playoff game for Johns Hopkins is 22. They've done it 3 times. The latest was back in 2005. Now a timeout's called by the Blue Jays as Hunter Moreland is racing down the side. We will step aside. 9:10 to play in the contest. Virginia trailing big time. Blue Jays moving on shortly. Back after this.
Eric Snyder made some nice saves early on and really gained some confidence, saving 46% on the year. Today, a completely different story. 13 saves, only 4 goals allowed. The senior realizing this team goes as far as he can carry him on the defensive end. He plays well. They are tough matchup and a tough out for anyone.
Ties a season high with the 13 saves, and you talked about it earlier, Matt, about the Big Ten teams in the tournament. Maryland, Ohio State, now Johns Hopkins going to be 3-0 in 8 minutes and 55 seconds.
Pick left, pick left. Get through.
3 of the 8 in the quarterfinal round of that conference in its inaugural season. Radzowitz. Now Eisler. And now cutting down is Ryan Brown. Getting the feed from Wells Stanwick. And I can see your reaction, Matt. It's how does that happen?
Every single time Johns Hopkins takes the ball from X, they time their cuts so well that they have not one person open. It looks like almost everybody's open because they're crisscrossing, they're cutting, and they're creating distractions for Virginia's defense, and they can't concentrate on the task at hand. Playing just awesome lacrosse and very smart, well-coached lacrosse.
A couple good extra passes there, and Caholen, though, missing the shot. Tyler German spins back, looking, shooting, and scoring. Tyler German, senior midfielder, puts it in for Virginia.
Tyler German, the senior, has had just an amazing campaign this year. He faces off, or he's on the wing on faceoffs, played defensive midfield. He's also been one of their best offensive middies right here, just doing it himself, using great power in his core to get enough power in the shot to the far corner. He can hold his head high this year, as he has been a phenomenal player for the Virginia Cavaliers.
Coach Starja told us this week he thought his team would play very hard today and kind of go after Hopkins. He thought this game might be played a little bit more close to the vest. Well, it certainly wasn't the case. It's the way that Johns Hopkins came out and asserted themselves early and took command of this ball game. It's a push on Virginia. And really, it gives a lot of credit to what Hopkins has done in terms of really the same personnel. They're just more comfortable and more confident.
So much of this game is about confidence, and right now there can't be too many teams with the belief in themselves higher than Johns Hopkins. I'm a little surprised they still have their first midfield in here.
I was going to say, Brown hits the feed from Connor Reed and scores.
That's 6 assists for Connor Reed today. Just doing a nice job sweeping to his right hand. Virginia sliding to the midfielder, who continues to make him pay with the adjacent skip pass. And right here, Connor Reed. If I'm Virginia, I'm not sliding. And just caught ball watching. Ryan Brown, though, it's not that easy, folks. You have to understand the game. He does as well as anybody. Knows when to back out the side door to get his hands free in the appropriate places in the field.
Ryan Brown has 4 goals today, 58 on the season, a single season record at Johns Hopkins and counting. You said it, Matt. Reed with 6 assists. And there's a flag, if we've seen one. Yep, coming up on Virginia. Schneider, we saw this yesterday by Blaze Reardon of Albany. And Schneider, and that's going to draw another flag. Remember that play by Blaze yesterday for Albany? How many times do we see that highlight? He raced all the way down the field.
If I'm Coach Petromaldo, I'm like, hey, stay in your cage. We don't need you to get hurt. He took a hit there for no reason. The senior's showing you the emotions. But he puts himself in a compromising position because he has no pads on. He wears a chest pad and gloves. That's it. You don't like to think teams will come after you, but again, at the end of the day, their job is to get the ball out of your stick. If you're in the middle of the field, it's fair game. So again, a nice play, but I think Coach Petromaldo would prefer to see his team healthy and ready to go next week than lose a marquee player at this point.
And finally, some substitutions are in for Johns Hopkins. Brenton Vallis is checked in. Behind the net is Patrick Frazier's also in, their man-up specialist. We get a penalty coming up on Virginia in a moment. This is Thomas Guida. Another flag. 3 separate penalties coming up on Virginia in a moment. Let's see if the officials can remember everything that's happened in this sequence here.
On white. 23 white, 30 seconds with a hole.
23 white, hole 30 seconds.
36 white, 1 minute illegal body check. Wait, Travis!
White, illegal body check.
And then the third was a slam.
So I'll tell you, how do you remember it all? Ottenbright with the 30 seconds. Zed Williams.
Here's the hold. The Snyder hit you know, kind of shoulder to shoulder. Not sure that's necessarily a penalty, but they try to protect the goalies. And then we had a slash down on the other end, so they're going to be in a pretty good position here offensively with 3 flags on the Virginia Cavaliers.
It's like they need it.
Okay, you got that? Where was that hole?
Zed Williams, Tanner Ottenbright, we saw those two.
There are 3 penalties on Virginia on the play. Tanner Ottenbright, 30 seconds for holding. Zed Williams, 1 minute, 31 seconds.
A hold, an illegal body check, and a slash. And it's 6 on 3. And they end up getting a save, Virginia. How about it? Railing. Fields gets it up now for Tal Bruno. Frazier. Well, they got 1 man back. That's 2 men up for 15 seconds for the Blue Jays. Coming up on 4 minutes left in the contest. Most goals that Virginia has given up in a playoff game was Syracuse, and it was back in 1995. They lost 20-13. Really no save. Good job there. Shot from Brenton Vallis. He's got 6 saves. Now the second group or the third group has really just come into the game for Johns Hopkins. Like you said, Matt, they have their starters still out there.
Raley has played well. The freshman goalie from Georgetown Prep in Rockville, Maryland, has played very, very solid. But I think something to keep your eye on for Johns Hopkins. This is their second their third, fourth midfield, their second attack unit. Their concepts are the exact same. They look and play no different. They're doing the 2-man games. They're cutting at the appropriate times. They're just a very well-coached team.
How about that save by Schneider? He's coming off the field now on that Owen Van Arsdale shot. And yes, sir, he says a season high, 14 saves.
And look, early on, I think Virginia took some poor shots, but he was phenomenal as the game progressed. Virginia had some great looks, and he was up to task every single time. That's a really important thing for this team if they want to make a run, is can they have a goalie playing at a high level with confidence? And he certainly showed today. He is back. He is ready to take this team, and from a captain perspective, a coordination perspective on the defense, he's got it all going right now, and the Blue Jays are humming.
Nice moment there for Schneider and head coach Dave Petramala, who has said, you know, teams and sometimes coaches, and they don't give their goalie a chance enough, and sometimes eager and quick to make a change. And he gave Schneider a lot of leeway and a lot of respect, which he has for his graduate student who's been there for quite some time and who was making saves at almost 55% last year, was down to the low 40s this year, but he stuck with him and he has responded. And Johns Hopkins is about ready to move on to the quarterfinals. Let's go back to the studio and check in with Anish and Quint. Guys? All right, and we'll get you to that one as soon as we are done here with 2:09 left. Time for our Capital One player of the game. We've got the combo today with the Stanwyck brothers, Shaq and Wells.
They were just terrors on the offensive side today. Both had highlight-type goals. First one here, the beautiful behind the back, falling to the ground, and then the low to high shot for Wells Stanwyck with no angle. Takes the punishment. But the punishment he's inflicted on the scoreboard today, well worth it. And then Shaq Stanwyck just did it all. Off ball, a few assists, getting his teammates involved. Homewood Field is going to be a place that a lot of people are going to want to watch lacrosse the next few years, just to take a look at the ensuing greatness of Shaq Stanwyck.
Johns Hopkins will take on the winner of Syracuse and Marist. That is later tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern right here on ESPNU. And the quarterfinals next Sunday in Annapolis, Maryland. You ask, what's the record by the Blue Jays versus a Syracuse or Marist team? They're 1-0 versus Marist. Beat them 22-6 in the tournament back in 2005 versus the Orange. They are 4-8. They've actually lost the last 3 to Syracuse and lost the last 7 of 8. So that could set up a real big one there if Syracuse is able to get by Marist and avoid a first-round upset like they had last year. There's Coach Petromalo giving a little smile there, as in it's been a real tough year for them and all that they've had to go through. And Coach Dom Starsia on the other side for Virginia. They just didn't have it today. As we said earlier, for the Blue Jays, playing for their teammate, playing for their brother, Jeremy Huber, the freshman defenseman who passed away at the end of January. Tragic death of him and what they've had to endure throughout this season. And they have continued to do what any Johns Hopkins team is normally thought to have done, and that's to get to the postseason and play and battle for a championship. And they have that opportunity once again this year. Moving on to the quarterfinals, which will be the 23rd time in the last 25 years, Matt. They lost last year to the eventual champs Duke, 19-11.
I think when you look at the NCAA tournament this year, I think there was your 4 favorites, which were the 4 top seeds. Then you didn't know if there was anyone else who could really compete. If Johns Hopkins can win faceoffs and make saves, they're in that conversation because they have the skill and the players to do it. They can certainly make a run. Assuming they play Syracuse, we have that game upcoming. If they can win faceoffs, which isn't easy to do, they can play and score points on that Syracuse defense.
Behind the back shot here by Owen Van Arsdale, and he puts it past Will Ryan, the backup goalkeeper for Johns Hopkins. With 1:23 left.
There's been a number of highlight reel goals in this game. Owen Van Arsdale, lefty, very crafty inside with the behind the back. Getting Virginia its 6th of the game.
Face-off one here by Virginia, and then they throw it away. There's Jeff Kratke. And of course, you look down the roster, and we've said it, in terms of this Virginia team, very young and experienced. They came in with their most inexperienced defensive group ever, really. 2 freshmen and a walk-on. The defensive end, they don't have a lot of seniors.
And you look at their defensive midfielders as well, all sophomores, eligibility-wise. So just a very young team, and it shows. You'd like to see improvement throughout the course of the year. I think they did, but they're not going to end on a high note. I think this is something that will serve them well in the long run. When I was a junior at Virginia, we lost to Duke 17-2. It wasn't a pretty game. It's just one game, though. They have a whole new team coming here next year. New players will step up. Some players will leave, but again, you have to take the little things, and it's been a tremendous season for a team that faced more injuries than most teams face in a 4-year period in 1 year.
Ryan Tucker now unleashes one and gets a goal with 30 seconds left for Virginia. Coach Petromalo still coaching that. They took a timeout a little while ago. I know that must incite some of the fans and people, but you know what? No, he knows. He's like, we have to continue to play this for 60 minutes because then when you get in the ball game that requires you, even a little bit more and you're not blowing somebody out, you can't have that mindset like, oh, yeah, we're cool, we're up. We're winning by 3 or whatever.
They're up by 10 goals, and they called a timeout, and Coach Petromalo's in there with a whiteboard.
Right.
Shoring up the loose ends because they know against the elite teams, they make you pay for any small errors.
Johns Hopkins is going to move on to the quarterfinal round of the NCAA Men's Lacrosse Championship with a 19-7 win at Virginia. For the 2nd year in a row, they beat the Cavaliers in the first round on their home turf. First round action continues. We'll send you out now to Colorado as Brown is taking on Denver.